A growing number of women are choosing not to have kids and as a result are advancing in their careers and using their wealth to buy property and travel more. This is an article by Bloomberg, I think, came out of their Business Week edition. Ashley Marraro isn't married and doesn't have kids, and she has a message for women just like her. You can still have it all. I love my life and feel very fulfilled, says Marraro, who froze her eggs in 2018 to keep her options open. The 43-year-old feels a deep sense of satisfaction from her job as a sales representative for a maker of medical devices, which brings her into contact with patients, and she relishes all of the lifestyle and financial freedoms that come with being a single, child-free woman in a well-paying job. Marraro, who was married for 4 years before getting divorced in 2008, enjoys an enviable degree of financial independence. The West Village resident owns her own apartment, she bought in 2019 for around $900,000 and then renovated. And in June, she closed on a summer home in New Jersey's Long Beach Island with her sister Christina, who's a few years older and also single with no kids. Ashley figures she's taken 10 trips in the last 12 months and often friends with a large group of about 25 people who are largely unmarried and don't have children. Those trips at 43 sound like they suck. I do not want to go on that trip, frankly.
Yeah, so everything you just described there is kind of like a symptom of what I would call the wider mating crisis. And it seems to be like a cultural kind of prioritizing of the male default of economic success, the kind of girl boss, lean in kind of culture seems to be set up as what the vision for success for women tends to be. And you have a lot of even corporate giants kind of getting in on this. A few years ago, you had Morgan Stanley, the investment bankers, put out a report that forecasts that 45% of prime working age women between the ages of 25 and 44 will be single and childless by 2030, the largest share in history. And it's not entirely obvious to me that this is in women's best interests. I mean, I'm pretty libertarian in my sensibilities about, freedom of choice, whatever someone wants to do with their life. But it seems to me like you can see the kind of corporate interest in opening up more worker drones for 60-hour work weeks. The workplace now, women are crushing it. It's a brain-based economy rather than a brawn-based economy. So that seems to be in their interests. And it's weird. It's almost like Huxleyan. It's like Brave New World. Have you read that, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very Huxleyan. It's like this kind of hedonistic life of going on lots of trips, having very atomized type of sex. Singlehood will be on the rise. You won't get attached to any one person. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That kind of thing. And it seems a little bit dystopian to me, to kind of, to hurtle towards that dystopian vision. But that's the modern mating crisis we find ourselves in. And that's where we are.
Why do you think this male default has come about? Because it's something that I've noticed as well. The typically masculine traits are the ones that would have been held by men: the conscientiousness, the disagreeability, the casual sex, the ability to move on and not really catch feels and not be emotional, to focus on possessions and drive fast cars. What is it that's causing that to be imbibed by women and also pushed to them by culture?
So actually, women are generally a bit more conscientious than men. But yeah, I agree with you that it's kind of flipping to that default. And I think it is just an organic backlash to kind of what we might describe as the historic oppression of women socioeconomically. It's kind of a leaning into that freedom almost at too fast a pace. It's like one speed go, foot to the floor on girl boss mode. And you have the corporate giants kind of playing into that. And it's just a kind of a situation where for the first time maybe in history, men and women aren't relying on each other as obviously as in the past. That it's kind of more individualistic kind of world now. We're kind of, atomized and away from our kin in big cities across the world, which is very evolutionarily novel. I think it's just an ordinary, somewhat expected backlash to maybe the oppression of the past.
Like the child of the Christian parents that moves out and immediately gets a nose piercing and a bunch of tattoos and swings back the other way. Okay, continuing on with that article, single women without kids had an average of $65,000 in wealth in 2019 compared with $57,000 for single child-free men. Mm-hmm. Single women without kids 65,000, 57,000 for single child-free men. So we already have something there that kind of pushes back against the commonly held worldview. The difference is for single mothers, the figure was only $7,000. Parenthood was losing its appeal even before COVID-19. US birth rates have been falling for the past 30 years. In 1990, there were around 71 births per year for every 1,000 women aged 15 to 44. By 2019, that had dropped to 58. So from 71 to 58, which is a pretty big drop. Some women opting not to have kids are enjoying an enviable degree of financial freedom. She's got all of her different houses. The childless life does have its drawbacks. People who are single and child-free pay more in taxes. And housing is a lot harder to afford on one income than two, especially with home prices and rents at record high and mortgage rates on the rise. So that's the problem that Bloomberg can find with potentially going to your grave with no one else that's part of your genetic kin there to see you, is the fact that you're going to pay more in taxes and housing is more difficult to afford.
Yeah, it's very corporate kind of language, isn't it? That the main concern would be, how do we get around that one stumbling block of the taxes? But I was glad that she did at least highlight the idea of buying a house on a single income, because that's something I always highlight for incels, that's a double whammy kind of circular punishment. It's hard to get a house if you're a single man on one income, and a lot of incels are on lower income or no income at all. You almost need to be part of a dual earning household to get a mortgage. So without the house, you can't get the girlfriend. Without the girlfriend, you can't get the house. So it feels like a little bit of a circular punishment for incels there. But yeah, that's you can hear the corporate language dripping in that account.
It really does rile me up, man. The fact that women who choose to be mothers are being seen as second-class rubes that have been, I don't know, gazumped into taking a role that was just some ancestral old version of what womanhood was supposed to be. You can go out and be a boss bitch. You can get over your last boyfriend by getting under your next one. Like, all of this sort of rhetoric to me doesn't sound massively empowering. Louise Perry's book, Case Against the Sexual Revolution, is phenomenal at this. Like, loveless sex is not empowering, and teaching women that they should be able to try and compete with men on having loveless sex. Only one gender is going to win that. Right? It's not going to be the women. Men are going to continue to run through girls when they can and leave them behind. And I don't know, I just feel like there needs to be the pushback or the swing back against past disadvantages that women have had is not making women's lives any better. I think that you can comfortably say that enabling women to earn more in the workplace was fantastic. The vote, the pill, the washing machine, all of this stuff, like things that genuinely liberated women from the previous constraints that they had, were worthy. I struggle to see how encouraging women to see the new pair of Gucci shoes that they've got, that they buy from a job that they hate to impress people that they don't like, as being the highest point of contribution of their life, and that the mothers are somehow second-class citizens.
Yeah, and it certainly is. Like it almost seems like a concerted war on motherhood. Even last week there was an article, or over the weekend, in the New York Times about the myth of the maternal instinct, and it talked about how this is a man-made phenomenon, culturally kind of a cultural script that we all buy into, and people were just highlighting how ridiculous this is. Now, I think there might be a little bit of I can give a little bit of a charitable interpretation to that article. In that the myth of maternal instinct isn't just one thing. So maternal instinct is probably more accurate. So maternal instincts could sometimes, depending on the age of the woman, her marital situation, her socioeconomic status, that maternal instinct might even be infanticide. So, it's a suite of instincts that are kind of activated in different situations, like all of our evolved psychology. It's not just on or off. It's just in which environment it comes on play.
As I said over dinner the other evening, that is way, way too much of a charitable interpretation. That person that wrote that article doesn't even know what you're on about, and you've extrapolated out this. It speaks to your good nature. What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for a selection of the best clips from the podcast over the last few weeks. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.